Next round we're going to do is the 8x56 rim. It's called the Hungarian, Austrian, whatever. This cartridge is a little bit easier to reload and to deal with than the 8x50, the original cartridge for the M95 rifles. And you'll find the vast majority of the rifles that you'll find on the surplus market are in that caliber. And they're done, the difference, or to denote it, is it will have an S stamped on the barrel or an H if it was converted in Hungary or Bulgaria. And like I said in my last video, basically what they did is took the old cartridge, and you can see just from the different shape, they ran a reamer up in there, I believe, made the cartridge deeper and changed the geometry of the shoulder and neck. So that was the conversion, and what this conversion was is from the old ammunition to more or less take these guns they already had and modernize them to and that's loaded with a 208 grain Spitzer bullet, which is more of a modern thing in the 30s, as compared to the old torpedo bullet, which was the first smokeless cartridges or metallic jacketed bullet cartridges of the 1890s. So it was an attempt to modernize the gun. Now it's a 100-year-old gun. It's been modified once, been used in a couple different wars. A lot of them, they'll have World War I stamps and then reissue stamps in the 30s, so they're kind of worn out. The groove diameter on all of them should be 0.330 thousandths. But I've found that a majority of them, especially the ones like recently imported from Century Arms, the groove diameter can vary. But I'm getting an average use that's coming out to 332 thousandths. Some of them go as much as 335 thousandths. So what we try to do is to get a bullet close to the bore diameter. You can do it with a cast bullet, and there's some other tricks I'll go over to do it with a jacketed bullet. Well, let's go over dies and other components. Fortunately, in this caliber, Lee does make a set of full-length resizing dies with load data, okay? And they're about $30 a set. You can go to CH4D and get a set also. They're about $80. I'm not sure if the other companies have them. But the reloading companies in like Buffalo Arms will stock the dies and the brass, Graff & Sons, Buffalo Arms. So it's pretty easy to get dies, and it's pretty easy to get brass and components. They're still made by Privy Partisan is what the commercial name is. You can get loaded ammunition. And this is the country, the arms maker, or the ammunition maker in Serbia, that still makes at least the 8x56 in a commercial load. You can either get full metal jacket or you can get soft point ammo. At the time, the only factory rounds I can get is soft point ammo. They also make brass and other reloading components to reload this, so you can get brand new components. And basically this is what this cartridge is. It's one of these I tested in the guns, and I reloaded it with 208 grain spire point bullet, which is 330 thousandths diameter. Okay, so if you got a gun with a good bore, it's not worn out, this ammo should, work fine in it. And all the components are right there, right on the money. So I've done some experiments with this, and also, just like the 8x50, you do have rifles with worn out barrels. Since the cartridge kind of was around the 200, 208 grain. I did find that you can go with 338 grain, spire point with a flat base, horny bullet, and then I run it through a sizing die, size it down to either 329 or 330. You can get custom made ones. I've also sized this up as high as 331 to use in one carbine that I have a fairly worn barrel, which is slugging at around 332 thousandths, and got fairly good results with it. The cost of the brass is a lot better. You can go to Buffalo Arms, and each case they charge, if you want one case, it's 71 cents. If you buy 100 cases, it's 57 cents a case. And if you buy 250, they'll drop the price down a whole 56 cents. So you can get brass at a fairly reasonable price without going bankrupt. You can get dies at a fairly reasonable price and these work. Once again, the Lee die is probably your best bet. It's got a sizing ball in there of 329 thousandths. The CH4D, because this cartridge was also loaded with more of an 8mm bullet, but the smaller size 8mm, like a 324, something that goes in an 8mm Mauser, and you have to be careful with the load data again. Are they using the small bullet? See, they don't really tell you. And then when you're sizing the larger bullets to match the bore size, you have to be careful. But the 200, 208 grain is the range of bullets I'm using on this cartridge. Now, I had some good results with the bullets, at least. And because of the uncertainty of the other cartridge, I had to get a chronograph. So when I ran the chronograph on it was basically a batch of these soft point bullets that I made up. I found that using IMR 3031, this cartridge doesn't like that powder. It's very inconsistent, it does strange things, and it doesn't give good accuracy. So what you'd want to do is kind of go to a slower burning powder. And I tried using 4350, IMR 4350, and I used it with a 208 grain, actually with this 208 grain bullet, and I took it out, and I do have a carbine which is close to the 330 thousandths, and that's what I used, factory bullet with a reloaded case, and I used the powder of 4350. I found excellent results. The velocity doesn't get up as high. It doesn't get up to the 2,000 feet per second like the 3031. The velocity was a little less, I think 1,700 or 1,800. But just from my initial testing with that powder in that gun, I haven't used this powder with a bullet that's been a larger bullet size down. So I'm using just plain old factory ammo. And as you can see, I worked up one charge there, and this is still a couple thousandths under the maximum. So it's not setting a real, like I said, it's only traveling about 1,800 feet per second, but this is a 5-shot group with 4 shots touching and 1 little flyer off the bench. 4 shots. The length of that, there's about, I'd say 850 thousandths, you know, a little bit more than 3/4 of an inch in that string. For an old gun that, you know, doesn't have a real mint bore, the bore was rusty in the end, that's pretty good results. You'll find that loading this cartridge is a lot easier. The rifles are more available, and probably that's what a lot of people will be loading. But you can reload these guns and overcome the short barrel. And that was out of a carbine too. It wasn't out of a long rifle. Off the bench. you can get used to the trigger, and it can give you accuracy results like that. Which, for me, out of a gun you spent $150, $200 for, that's pretty good. An old gun, 100 years old.